Can we please give a round of applause for Daniel?
As was just mentioned, my name is Daniel, and I do spend all day, every day, talking to the employers that will one day, hopefully, try to hire you. Now, as you can imagine, I'm a bit young, and I do have some nice Korean skincare, so I probably look a bit younger. But I promise you, I was, for those of you still in university, in your shoes not that long ago. And so while working at a job marketplace, I've seen, in the 2 years I've been there, over 1.6 million interactions between people looking for jobs and people looking to hire people for those jobs. I've seen over 30,000 applications, and I've seen how 100,000 people interact with jobs. Now, as you can imagine, that's quite a unique vantage point, because you're not the one applying, you're not the one hiring, but you are the one watching everything happen. And today, as a result, what I wanted to take you through, because the theme ultimately is into the unknown, is how do you prepare for the jobs that don't even exist yet? Now, I think the best place to start is with the current trends. And unfortunately, for those of you that do read the news or watch the news, it's not exactly positive, is it, right now? There are mass layoffs, there are budget cuts, and for those of you at the early career levels, you are facing very, very early challenges. Now, I wish I could stand here up front and tell you guys confidently that it's all going to be okay, that this uncertainty is just going to dissipate because somewhere, somehow, some way, someone's going to fix it. Unfortunately, I think that real solutions come from honest conversations, and I'm here to tell you up front that that uncertainty isn't going anywhere. In fact, it's only going to get worse. Now, I had a million stats, as you can probably tell, but I wanted to give you guys one that really put it into color, just how much change you're going to see. And that's this. By 2030, 85% of the jobs that you and I and everyone outside of this room will be doing don't even exist yet. Now, that's quite a daunting thing, because 2030 doesn't really seem like that far away. And for those of you that are wondering, how is it even possible that 85% of the jobs in existence are just going to appear in the next 15 years? Well, to that I say, try and explain the job of a social media manager to someone 20 years ago. They'll look at you just confused, right? With so much access to technology, so much ability to connect with one another, and so much capability to leave an impression, both on yourself and with so many people, comes so much change. And the job market is no different from that. Now, how do we actually plan for this? Admittedly, when I had the idea, when I was talking to the lovely TEDx team, I was chuffed. I was like, oh, this is a great topic. And then the call hung up, and I was like, it's so good, I'm not actually sure how to answer it. It's a really, really challenging thing. Now, admittedly, maths was never my forte, but I think the best place to start is a pragmatic sort of, I guess, overview. So what are we working with? We're working with you, pointing at all of you. If there was a laser pen function, I would, but you plus what equals success is something that doesn't even exist yet. Now, looking at that, we don't really have a whole lot to work with, if I'm really honest. In fact, we don't even know 2/3 of the equation. And so if we were to sort of start in an area in this formula that makes the most sense, it's probably reasonable to start this solution conversation with the one thing we actually know. You. How do you prepare yourself for this future? What can you implement in your life to give yourself a better chance, to hopefully find more success, and ultimately, I guess, find some confidence now, as opposed to an outcome tomorrow? Well, to begin with, as such, I'm going to give you two principles. Now, these principles I've actually adopted from people that I idolize in my life, and I promise you, if you apply them, you will be far better off, not just in 15 years, not just in 10 years, but literally from tomorrow onwards. And they are scalable and applicable in every possible circumstance. What's the first one, you ask? Quantity over quality. Now, that's pretty counterintuitive, right? Because pretty much every type of sentence you'd hear in this is it's all about quality over quantity. Guys, I want a quality product. I don't want to sell lots of rubbish. So on, so on, so forth. What if I told you that in order to have the confidence necessary to be even able to take a leap of any kind consistently, you have to recalibrate how you define success? What do I mean by that? You need to move away from this internal measurement system where you define your sense of success based on the quality of your outcomes, and instead start redefining it based on the quantity of attempts that you've made. Why? Because this is the only way to build resilience. Why? Asking myself a lot of questions here, aren't I? But why? Well, if you're someone who bases your sense of success and thus potentially an element of your happiness off of the quality of your outcomes, what you're also inadvertently admitting to the world is that your success in life is not yours. It's the result of something else. It's the result of chance. Why? I'll put it in color for you. Well, if you're the type of person that, really bases your sense of happiness and success off of an exam grade, a different teacher could have given you a different grade. If you're the type of person that looks on last month's sales figures and goes, that's it, that's the quality of my outcomes, I'm successful, well, a different group of customers may have had a different reason to not buy the product, and those reasons could have potentially been something you can't overcome. So the moment you base things off of outcomes is the moment you put success external to yourself. Whereas if you base it on the quantity of attempts, a few things will happen. One, you'll become someone who's liberated from a sense of, I guess you could say, anxiousness when it comes to things like this. Because too often than not, people judge a decision, judge an option, chase a dream based off of what could happen. Not whether I like what would happen, or not whether I enjoy it. And so ultimately, if you take away a lot of the stigma that you place on yourself around the quality of your outcomes, you'll actually find over time, you'll be making decisions based on what you like, not what you think you're good at. And that, over time, will actually lead to quite a journey of self-discovery. Take that one from me personally. Because if you don't care about the outcome, you just care about what you like, you'll actually start doing a lot of things that you enjoy, and when you enjoy them, you'll find success at them because you have an intrinsic motivator that goes above everyone else. Now, am I just saying this because I believe in it? No. Science does as well. Now, earlier you guys would have heard that the brain can't actually tell the difference between fact and fiction in terms of what's in front of you and what's in your brain, so to speak. And this very much holds true here. Now, what's the exact science? In a field of science called cognitive science, it's slightly different from psychology. So psychology deals with the abstract concepts in your brain. Cognitive science deals with the infrastructure of your brain, how it works. Within that field of science, there is a concept called embodied cognition. Now, in a nutshell, embodied cognition basically suggests that your brain learns exclusively through action taken. It does not learn through thought. To put this sort of in an example, or a few examples for you, when I was maybe, 10, 15 years ago, if my mum told me, I really want you to imagine riding a bike. Okay, you done it? And now I go out, will I suddenly just be able to ride a bike? No. And for those of you that say that that's a physical endeavor, fair enough. Does anyone here, admittedly with the light on, but did anyone here study a language at school, another language that was sort of foreign to them? I saw a hand, yeah, a couple of you, right? For those of you that have done it, did you find it to be more impactful to study it in the classroom through a textbook? Or did you get more out of it by potentially going to the country and speaking the language, listening to radio or TV content in said language? Basically, did you find it more effective to take action, or did you find it more effective to think about it? Because while your brain cannot differentiate between reality and fiction, it uses an offsetting mechanism of what actions you take to judge what is reality and fiction. The reason being is you wouldn't actually make a decision because you thought you saw a ghost, right? Unless you saw a ghost and you'd run away. And so your brain waits for your body to respond before it rewires itself. And so, to put this again in color, if you only learn through action, and we have 15 years of learning possibilities, would you not like to learn as much as possible, to be as prepared as possible? And if you would like to be as prepared as possible, you should probably take as many actions as possible. Hence, quantity over quality. Now, ultimately, this will lead to self-confidence. I'm sure we've all potentially done one press up for the first time. It sucked. And then suddenly you do another one. Still rubbish, but hopefully slightly less rubbish, and so on and so on and so forth. This ease is applicable to almost anything in life through repetition, and it doesn't have to be so specific. The action of coming up to a proverbial ledge, looking at it, not being afraid of what's beneath you, and then actually having the subsequent confidence to still take the leap is something you can practice irrespective of whether or not it's learning to play the guitar or trying to start a company. Your internal infrastructure, your brain infrastructure, is used in every instance. And so, if you can develop confidence by repeatedly taking actions, and yes, admittedly, you will fail an awful lot, two things will happen. One, you'll become less afraid of failure because you've dealt with it more often, and you'll actually become better at coping with it as well, and you'll also become better at learning from the failure. That's a very, very commonly said lesson, right? Learn from failure. One of my mum's favorite quotes of all time is, a commonly said lesson is a commonly misunderstood one. That's why we have to say it so much to each other. It takes time to actually learn the mechanisms necessary to learn from failure. And I guess the final one is if you can nail all of these things and at the same time not lose heart, not use resilience, and basically not run out of fuel between now and then, you'll actually be the most consistent learner. You'll be one of the best dealers with failure, and you'll also be one of the most confident people when it comes to facing the unknown. And bear in mind, 80% of the job market in 2030 is unknown. And so by doing this, you will be better off. Now, the second principle, perhaps another counterintuitive one, is concepts over context. What do I mean by this? Well, it's really, really important that you focus on the transferable concepts within your skills. Quite convoluted language, I admit that. What I mean is, for example, we're in a lecture hall, right? And typically in a lecture hall, at least when I attended, I didn't have the best attendance, if I'm honest, but when I did attend, we typically learn an academic curriculum in an academic manner to pass an academic test, right? And so how you learn, how you apply it, and what sort of measurements and success you get from it are all academic. And what typically ends up happening is you leave an academic environment and suddenly it's really, really hard to pull a lot of that academic thinking across because everywhere outside of school and university isn't an academic world, right? However, while doing your assignments, you probably had a group test and you probably learnt to work with other people. You probably stood up on a stage, very similar to this one, maybe with less cameras in your face, but you stood up on a stage and you spoke in front of people, right? Ultimately, those are the transferable concepts because you will find yourself at most jobs standing up in front of a group of some or maybe even a few people and speaking. And that's something you learnt here. You will find yourself definitely in a group situation where you have to work together. That's an underlying concept. Now, in a future that is so uncertain, your ability to not just gather information and build confidence, it's not the only thing that matters. Your ability to apply and really, I guess, use the full intellectual tool belt that you've developed on a moment's notice is imperative. Now, I really want to hash this. Underlying principles happen everywhere. A lot of people restrict their learning by self-prescribing this notion that learning only takes place in an environment where learning is supposed to take place. For example, most people put their studying hat on when they're studying or at university. Most people put their professional development hat on when they're in a professional environment trying to grow. The thing is there are so many more learning opportunities out there every single day. It's just up to you to be self-aware enough and confident enough to, 1, recognize them, 2, actually understand them, and then 3, execute on them. Because, as Henry Ford put it, vision without execution is a hallucination, right? So your ability to gather, reconstruct, and I guess apply all the solutions you've had will ultimately be what leads you to success. And now as we move to the AI-based era, where you can find out anything at an instant, it's no longer about your ability to filter through, because you no longer have to do that. It's about your ability to ask the right question in the first place. And to ask the right question, you need to be able to know anything related to the question to begin with. And personally, I had an initial hesitancy towards micro-credentials, because I heard micro and I heard fraction. A fraction of the credential, a fraction of the value. Since talking to the employers that we have on the platform, there's 2,000 of them, including many of the grad programs that you guys would more than likely love to go to after this, I can tell you that that's not how it's seen in the market. A micro-credential is seen as a surgical way to add a skill to your skill matrix, your skill profile, or your capabilities. And the best ones to start in right now are those high growth ones. It'll be AI, it'll be data analysis, heck, it'll be Tableau for those of you that do information systems, or Power BI. They're technical, which means they can be standardized, and they're accessible, which means, frankly, you have no excuse. But while you go and do that, I implore you to realize that as more and more and more things become automated, the difference isn't going to necessarily be all technical skills. It's going to be your human ones. Because as, I guess, machines take more and more of the technical work away from us, I guess we're going to have more time to interact with each other. And it's more going to be a case of relationships. I think actually Edwin, my flatmate who's here, told me last night that one of his favorite quotes of all time is that life in its entirety is just a relationship game. It's just about the relationships you hold. They open doors, they close doors, they make you happy, they make you sad. And so really hone in on those human skills and don't forget them in an age that's becoming increasingly technical. And finally, be resourceful and actually push for continuous learning. Now, if you're someone that's already applied or will apply the quantity over quality tenet, then fantastic. You will inadvertently become someone like this. Because frankly, it's not about what happens, it's about whether you enjoyed it and were interested in doing it in the first place. And that's a great way to learn. Now, final thing, your action plan. Embrace uncertainty, this is just to summarize, as an opportunity. Prioritize taking actions over getting the perfect outcomes. This is actually a really hard one to implement, but I promise you it's incredibly impactful. Focus on learning concepts that are applicable across various contexts. Everyone's going to have a tool belt, and no one knows what we have to build. So your ability to use those tools creatively, irrespective of what comes your way, will be the defining thing that leads you to success in a job market that is so unbelievably uncertain. And adapt and evolve with emerging trends. I know we all sit on TikTok and think we're at the precipice of trends. To an extent, we are in some areas, but that's not every area. We have unbridled, never before seen access to instant answers to our question. And when I tell you the bar is surprisingly low in terms of how many people actually just think a question and actually go out and find the answer to it, it is unbelievably low. Go out, ask the question, see what the answer is, and learn a little bit. There's no harm in it. Now, as I leave you, it's all well and good to prepare for a journey, especially a journey where there is so much uncertainty, and hopefully you'll become a more confident and more effective and more efficient person off the back of this talk. But it's really important to remember that a car only goes as far as its fuel. It doesn't really matter what the car was or what the motor was made of or anything like that. So you have to keep yourself motivated. And so I guess in that vein, I'd like to leave you with sort of a final quote. It's not the pursuit of happiness, it's the happiness of the pursuit that's going to be important to you. You need to enjoy how you get to your destination, not just revel in what will happen once you do. So thank you very much. Thank you for being curious. Have a great day.